I haven't done this.
Usually want to be vote participants.
Okay,
Is that let know if somebody wants to join?
and then,
See what we are.
yeah, okay. Um. And. So if anybody joins, we just press on their name. If,
It'll just say you'll press that man.
okay. Get myself mixed up here. Yeah, that's kind of. Okay. So that's okay, yeah. I don't need to see a
Right.
version of myself.
Very loose.
Lost.
I think she's technically here because it looks like her thing's.
Microphone on there that's off.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and, call the meeting of the MS Sphere Library Reads meeting to order. Thank you all for proceeding in my absence. So the first order of business for today, is, why don't I just go through the agenda? We didn't write that down, but I'll go ahead and do that. So we have, minutes to do. I think we'll switch around 2 and 3 and maybe talk about the questionnaire results first. Does that make sense? Or, I'm gonna do public engagement.
We should do, all those first.
Sorry, so
It's our
okay.
work.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll do is number 2, talk about the questionnaire results, 3, talk about public engagement. And then any other anticipated business, but I would put under that category, next meeting. And along the way, just incorporate kind of next steps. So, do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 16th, 2025? Is there any discussion, any edits?
I think I forgot to send something to you, Brennan, but there's a, under the description of our. I'm going through the Sphere Library, it uses the word bulkhead. I would eliminate that because I think bulkhead might confuse people, because bulkheads typically, when you think about it, you have kitchen cabinets, that wall that comes down and cuts back, cabinets might go up to it. That's often a bulkhead. It's like a dead space.
Oh.
That's,
It was sort of bulk, it is that
Thing
metal
goes in.
door that bangs. You go into a space. What is it? Yeah, going into your basement. The doors
That's
go,
funny.
yeah.
well, I think of
It's
that
like-
as cellar,
Yeah.
Yeah,
outside cellar.
That's usually around here.
yes, we
Is it a
bulkhead, yes.
Well, okay, then I can't really leave it.
To New England.
I was like, okay, well,
That's
so funny.
yeah,
I've never heard that phrase bulkhead used for that area. of cabinets. Yeah.
well, if you're from,
Building
if
inspector.
you're from Maryland.
Yeah. Could be
bulkheads
outside of
Are
here.
cellar doors,
Uh-huh,
I'm sorry, bulkheads are above
yeah.
dead space,
Yeah.
above kitchen cabinets, and the cellar door is cellar door.
Okay,
They're all built codes,
Yeah.
yes.
and a lot of times people just call them built.
Right,
clean.
right, yeah, Q-tips.
That's an advertisement for Milko, okay.
Learn so much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so is there any other changes?
Yeah, Joe Johnson probably needs to be fixed till the roll call.
Mary Jo, you're one word, Mary Jo? Yes. Okay,
Or we can get the last names there, so. Actually.
and anything else?
So the Joe Johnson.
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo, first name, and just Johnson in the minutes there.
Oh, okay. Okay, take it
Last names.
Right. Okay,
There.
so we have, motion to approve the minutes as amended. Did I get a second?
I'll say,
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Sure, aye.
Ryan guy, Ellen aside.
And I'm just gonna abstain since I'm so here. Okay, great. So, the next item is to talk about the questionnaire results and, Susie, do you feel comfortable just kind of giving us a broad overview? I know you did a compilation.
Yeah.
Great. And I liked having all the comments.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything else to say.
Okay.
And that is from me, but. what
Anything
I
that
do
stood
know-
out for you?
No,
No.
and what we did, we do have two more that aren't here, the historical and the COA, because they came in late. So I know that, like, I don't know whether the FedCom just didn't register it, but it occurred to me that some of the people that aren't on here are people that just hold meetings.
Right.
So,
Right.
so even though this may be a relatively small sample of everything that's in town, my guess is that people that just hold meetings, did not just necessarily respond.
All right. So we have copies of this.
I guess I gotta say one other thing.
Yeah.
The village neighbors said they are not a town entity. Well, I put them on the chart because it may lead to a further discussion about it.
Okay. All right, so let me I just want to take a quick look on if there was anything on the Council on Aging, it was actually Council on Aging and Cemetery Commission. Oh, man, I never gave you that.
No, but whoa, really, probably not.
I can read it.
Okay, all right. So, do you have state park arrangements to be out of it? They said, no, if no what part of future, the senior land should be exclusively used by the Council on Aging unless it approves another group using it. However, Council on Aging could not use the library. You need a functional toilet, water supply, and kitchen. Cemetery Commission doesn't need that kind of meeting space. And other ideas about how the building should be used. Town just does need record storage space. The library could be put to that use without much, if any, renovations. I say that as a former member of the ad hoc record storage and advisory committee. This was filled out by Susan Miller. All right.
One of the things I noticed, in by the way, Suki, I thought you did a great job, but pulling all this together is
Yep.
surprising. Thank you so much for that, but there were several responses that they said, oh, well, that's like, it comes from the assessor's court, but what is that what the assessors think? And here we are, Susan responding on behalf of the COA and the cemetery, but those committees, haven't necessarily weighed in. So I think we have to somehow do that in, as we're kind of live in these results.
So I know the historical commission met. And they talked about the survey, although, I don't think they went through question by question, but they did sort of generally talk about the building, and there were lots. I only know this because I watched their meeting, because we hadn't gotten a response from them, and I knew that they put it on their agenda. So I thought it would be useful just to get a sense of what this, and they're pretty key to this. That
And
this is
they-
a historic building.
So we do have a response from them, but don't have anything on it.
Correct. Okay. All right.
And it's not particularly extensive at all. So the other, I don't know if you felt their meeting had some more comments, but it seemed to me that they have a space in the Old Town Hall for their stuff. And so Henry wrote up and they have some perspective about the library, but it also is based on the already houses or stuff.
Right, yeah, I think that's a good analysis. I mean, there was discussion beyond the survey itself that went on, and we can talk a little bit more about that when we talk about public engagement. But, yeah, I got that sense that, we have the Old Town Hall, that has its own problems. But it does have, it does store not only kind of critical town records that are kept, I believe, in the vault, but then there are a lot of other historic artifacts that are in there, and we don't get regular access to it. During Celebrate Shutesbury, it used to be opened up and everybody could go. So I think there was a brief but a good discussion about, well, could they, the historical commission, engage people and invite the community and talk, either there or somewhere else, like bring things out of the Old Town Hall. So people could learn more about the history and see what kinds of weights and measures. There's a bunch of other stuff.
So bring things out of the Old Town Hall. to
Yeah,
sort of
just
like presentation. and-
Exactly, temporarily, yeah, that was sort of not necessarily the library, but anywhere that they have a gathering.
Which the recreation committee highlighted that in their comments. So the notion of a display space or space in an even temporary way was about connecting the community to town, to the history. And so that was other people's perspectives too.
And I think everybody, at least what I heard from the historical commission was that that a number of the members talked about sort of the treasure of having this as a library and concern that that it would no longer have any kind of affiliation with the library if we totally, if it was used as a storage building or meeting space or offices, then to kind of lose that history.
That is the assessor's. So it's the person that thinks both.
Yes.
So the assessor's response. And assessor's clerk has a response that captured that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a tough one. We're not going to take any public comments right now. The committee's gonna speak. And who is that? What's the hand raised? I can't see your name. What's it down?
Hi, this is Mary Lou Conca.
Oh, hi, Mary Lou. We're not
Hi.
engaging. The committee's just meeting now, and then we'll talk about any kind of public comment or just discussion in a bit.
Okay,
We're just talking about the survey results. There was clearly the police department and the town administrator both advocating for the police department to move over to that building. And I do know one of the things really that I, thought a lot about when I recommended to the select board that we have a committee was that there had been discussion with one department already about moving, and I felt that that was premature and that expectations had been raised and that we needed to have more deliberative process and do something like this and some other, public engagement around the building rather than any one person making a decision. And it's really, ultimately, this will come to, it would end up at town meeting by virtue of whatever is done with the building. There's going to be costs involved. So I think the more kind of background research that this committee can do, thoughtful deliberation about what makes the most sense, then we can defend and talk to the community about what our recommendations are. So, that's sort of where I was coming from.
I felt like both the town administrators and the police department responses presented pretty strong cases. But, immediately the question was, put on the table about, well, what is realistic, what's feasible? And I think, there's kind of a real dividing point. Those options that won't require running water and
Right.
bathroom versus those that do. So, it seems like that question needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later, so that we can know what avenues we go down and which ones we can't go down.
Well, I totally agree with that, but after having attended the finance committee's question and answer, say brainstorming event, in the small group that I was in, one of the things that was raised was with all these budgetary issues that are hitting now and are going to continue to hit us. Do we have to make some changes? And so I think, a number, I don't know how many years ago it was, that the town voted that we want a police department. Not to go with something that's more broad, tie in with some others.
Right.
And so, that might be something that we have to bring back on the table. And if we move the police department, if they moved over there and there's all this money spent, then it's determined that we can't afford a police department and voted on to abandon it, then, we spent all that money. And I mean, it's hard, to know what the future is going to bring, but I think that's something to consider. I mean, I agree that I think that their response and the town administrator's response make a good case for that kind of use. If money was not a concern, like, well, it makes a lot of sense. But
I have another perspective I want to put on the table, about police departments. And it's not about this police department, but whereas police departments need a level of privacy for the people getting services, there is a role for keeping the police department in the public eye. In other situations, and even in some of the past for Shutesbury, having the police be part of the physical community and not isolated, I feel can make it a safer, community-based department. And
Can you just define what you mean by?
Across the street.
so people don't see what's going on, people don't hear what's going on. Right now, when people come and go in this building, there is not a level of ultimate privacy, but being able to hear how people are dealing, how the police are, their actions and attitudes towards the people that they're taking in. In this town right now, that's not a problem. We also have a goal to have community policing. But when things change, police can act not safely with people they're dealing with or respectfully, and if it's isolated. So I grew up in Amherst, and there was a joke about the fact that the police department was downstairs in the old town hall, that gave them some stairs to push people down. So that was an attitude that kids and people had in Amherst. I'm not saying I know that it happened. I'm saying that police departments' commitment to community policing is a newer function. And we've had police officers who haven't done that in Shutesbury a long time ago. So having a police department that's totally isolated. Nobody else is around, like across the street. I feel it's something to think about. It's just a concern I have.
I guess for me, the strongest argument for having police in a separate space is privacy for the people that go there. And as someone that is not that familiar with the layout of town hall, I'm kind of curious about whether they'd have a separate entrance and if that would be a possibility. Because that would give a certain degree of protection for people as opposed to walking right into the front door, which I mean, I'm not sure, know what that situation is. I think certainly having running water in a bathroom would be an important thing for at least, particularly if they've got people that they're going to be with for extended periods of time, which I don't know, right? I'm not sure what a booking room would be. But I also know that there are a lot of regulations and requirements around the type of space that police can occupy. And so I think that the building would have to be, just conforming to the regulations of the city of Massachusetts has for that. So that might be a plus. My other thought is that just in terms of the perceptions of people in town, that has been a place of public access. And that's then become a police department might not go over quite so easily as if it remained a place of public access. And I think that people in town might feel it as a loss if it suddenly became a mixed town, which is, I think, the perception that that people will have if it becomes a police department. So those are the general. That's actually helpful.
One last thing to add, which I may have mentioned at the last meeting. When you reuse a building, what does, say, zoning code require that you do? I mean, an example, with the new library, we were finished with design, really, and the code changed, and we had to shoehorn in a third bathroom. So like, would there be a requirement to have 2 bathrooms?
Right,
uh,
yeah.
And so some of that, I'm not sure if talking to someone in zoning
Oh, building
first
inspector.
and building inspection, we might need to hire the services of a professional who, maybe an architect, someone who could find the answer before we commit to anything or commit to any, because that's obviously can also affect the cost. If, obviously 2 bathrooms, that's not gonna, right?
Well, that kind of gets back to, my initial point, which wasn't so much a focus on the police department
Yeah,
right now,
just in general.
but the realm of possibilities, for what we can consider. And I guess I would just want to follow up and say, how do we as a committee, move forward to get answers to those kinds of questions, and because we need to do that, actually.
Yeah, well, I think there are a few things that we could do. One of my concerns from the outset had been any change in use of
Right.
that building.
Right.
What does that trigger in terms of building code? And then what are the costs associated with that? So I think that's where we probably have to talk to the building inspector, the county building inspector. And I'm not sure if we get somebody, maybe we could do some research, and then if need be, he or she, I can't remember, there's like at least a couple of people in that shared department would be willing to meet with us or participate via Zoom if we had specific questions. Short of that, we could engage an architect, although I'd rather not do that.
Right.
Given our recent experience with architects, there might be somebody in town who are retired. We have somebody on the ZBA now, retired architect, so we might be able to tap into, some resources that wouldn't cost us a lot of money. We couldn't legally rely upon their opinion, but at least we can get some indication. Both Susie and Mary too, they good and sort of different points about public visibility. Yes, one of the points that the police have made is that people, when they engage with the public, it's not in the hallway. It's either outside, that, you know, the police car that they're, you know, stopping and seeing them. There's really no visibility to that public engagement. The public engagement happens inside their office. But in getting to their office, you have to walk past the town clerk, past the land use clerk. And, you know, it's a very small town hall. When I enter, I guess my voice carries, people typically know I'm there. Because I know they'll follow me for me. Right, right. Sign something, Rita, you're here. So it could be intimidating. I don't know how often that happens, but you know, it has at least been expressed by the police department that it's, you know, there's some really sensitive things that go on. That being said, you know, I guess we could divide up the issues. You know, there are financial issues or financial implications, and then kind of on the other side, the loss of this treasure to the public, right? That you can't go into that building anymore unless you're, I mean, it would be very changed. Obviously the exterior would be updated and fixed, but no longer would you have, you know, would you be stepping into this building, because it would be really transformed into office space. And so that's, you know, that is certainly a loss for the community, a gain for just the, you know, town administration. I had a thought, yeah, this morning I was in town hall the day this week, which was unusual. But when I was here earlier this week, I asked Devin, I had never been inside the whole police office.
Right.
And I realized we need to do a little tour of the building. I mean, Susie worked here, so she's familiar, but I had no sense of like what I've seen the chief's office, but you know, I come in the door, there's like a counter there, and I go into her office, but I never walked around the corner much. But, or I knew there was an evidence room, it's a closet, and so I looked at the space and I said, I asked Devin to provide us, not today, but he's gonna do a sketch, like a floor, you know,
Plan.
a little floor plan, just so everybody can see. The evidence closet is maybe about 3 or 4 feet wide, and the depth of the office, which is maybe, I don't know, it's 15, 20 feet, something like that. It's crammed full of stuff. It's not, you kind of have to go in sideways. It's, you know, it doesn't serve the purpose of kind of a modern police department of getting access, and they legally, I think, have to hold on to stuff. That was part of the, you know, doing the questionnaire was just to get a sense of what's the bigger picture here of how adequate is the space everybody has? Is it functioning well? And for me, you know, I think it sort of brought home. There are a lot of things we can do to make this space as it's currently configured a lot more user friendly.
You're talking about the police space.
I'm talking about town hall in general. Yeah, so, and to your point, Mary Jo, there is no separate entrance to answer your question. There's no separate entrance, police department. And at one point I thought, what if we just did like a, you know, a shuffling, what's it called? You know, you move everybody around on the playing board, and police were in here because they could have a door, you know, and
Right.
it'd be handicapped accessible, right? It's on the ground floor. I don't know what the square footage is of that space, but there could be potentially some reconfiguration to bumping into this room. This room, right now, I mean, really, the select board uses it. I'm not sure who else is holding in-person meetings, but it's a big room yes, it's totally underutilized. We're keeping a lot of space. We have been, Haley and Brennan have been working very hard in terms of record storage, and we are like up to our eyeballs in paper in this town hall. That Susie can well tell you, record storage committee. There's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't need to be saved. And so we have file cabinets out the yazoo. Went into the land clerk's office yesterday. Every time I go into a room, I go like, hey, so how much paper is in here?
Right.
Doesn't need to be here. So anyway, it's complicated, I guess is my way of saying.
So record storage did some of this mind moving things. So on the chart, the discoveries were some of the sort of distilled ideas. Every space should be used to what is best suited. A good solution should solve multiple problems. Occupied spaces are easier to monitor. Unoccupied spaces can lead to unreserved problems. Town government's a team effort. Staff should be kept together. The record storage design is meant to improve our stewardship of the records and evolve forward. And multiple participants use our town spaces. Communication, cooperation, and consideration of multiple needs and future needs is important. And in this process, we considered different things. One of the ones that Leslie mentioned, because Leslie was on the record storage committee, one thing she mentioned in her assessor comments was the idea that a vault be put on this building. When we talked about that, it solved multiple problems to put a cube. We had gone to visit Templeton's and they have this brick and it was accessed through the town clerk's office. So it was monitored. It had the right fireproofing, light proofing, mice proofing. It accessed the records more easily. So we talked about that as a concept, building a cube on the front of this building. And it could extend the town clerk's office to be more workable. The other part of that picture was it would, you could move the front door out and make an airlock, which would solve the problem about closing people's fingers in the windy door. And if you move that out and you put a different space on the east place where the copier and all that is, the bathroom, you could make better office space that everybody could use. So this idea of pushing out the front and you could only shovel a shorter one. So we had this vision and we drew it and we were interested in it. It would not involve water or septic. There is a well head on the east side of that front and it would need to be understood how to build around that. It gave the town clerk better access to records and a better office. And there is, I did go and look about digitizing records and it is not totally clear to me how digitized records can replace all printed records. So that is, it was so much of a back to get state information and I'm like, it's just say yes or no, really, but they won't say yes or no. So, that has to be researched more clearly, but in thinking about the dominoes, if the police were down here, the access would be more private and yet they would still be in the building that reflects, this is the town, you're part of the whole, we can value and appreciate you and see you. And then
You set up the stairwell, you could not pull down.
yeah, they were a little scared.
Just kidding.
And so, so this space became part of our discussion, like, how does this space work? This space could be broken up. You could have more privacy if you do a booking room on the windowed side. And could that still leave some room here for a meeting?
Right.
The kitchen is a emergency facility. It has to be at this point, as we understand in the town's plan, you have to be able to go into the kitchen because we had thought about using the kitchen space. And so these reviews here all were, nobody was perfect. The new construction was the module on the back of Town Hall, the addition to the front of Town Hall, and a freestanding building and a module on the back of Town Hall, but the reasons we personally preferred the modular additions onto the front of this town hall were those reasons I cited, that they are multiple solutions. They're not one solution. And doing that wouldn't change anything else other than better record storage, better access, a better town clerk space. And then it just, because we were reviewing things, the idea of the police department being down here seemed like a good idea. And then we could see other people in today's survey talking about how you could use that police space. So.
We lose the senior lounge though, so that we have to.
Yeah, then,
No,
then
no,
it's
no,
still a
Why
move
would
away.
you say that?
No, if the police department were
No,
down
here.
here.
It was not
you're talking-
supposed to be in there. It was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dividing this space up because this was, kind of a not usable, really usable
I'm
space.
sorry, what's gonna be in here?
Police.
Oh, the police. Oh,
And
I-
whatever else we figure out. I mean, maybe it's only big enough for the police, but no,
Where's
this
the
was the COA.
Where's the select board meeting room then?
It could even, so we didn't we were not trying
Yeah.
to solve all.
Yeah. No, I'm just.
And so it could be this room
Yeah.
divided differently, and because the police space and the meeting spaces probably may not intersect, but it could. And you could have access out of that door and that door. And it could be that the select board meets in the police department room, if you move the police out of there. We don't want to be in charge of the dominoes, but what I want to say is that the goal, the reality or the tenets that we figured out were these tenets.
Yeah.
And in clarifying that, this came out of our research for us.
Yes, no, it's very useful.
But so when we came to these, they seemed valuable because we went to 4 or 5 towns and looked at what they were doing. And when we came to these, it seemed like they should be a basis for understanding space. So that's how we got to that thing. The cost of a module on the front and building out that other side, that would have to be figured out how it goes.
Yeah, so, and I think I start to realize that as soon as we start talking about breaking out of this, building any kind of, so that the dollar signs, it just starts adding up.
Yeah.
And so, a reconfiguration down here, I don't know, is this a supporting wall? Is this a-
I doubt.
It's flexible wall.
Yeah, those can move, but see,
But that
Yeah.
wall,
I mean, I'm guessing that your beams running this way,
yeah,
given the
yeah,
post layout and the way this is boxed around.
right, yeah.
Well, hearing all this, it sounds like what you want to do is you want plans of town hall.
Yeah,
And then you want to start looking at the spaces and what the needs are, and can spaces be modified or adjusted to make them function the way they need to today.
Yeah.
And hearing, okay, you need a kitchen, but you don't need that much space for the kitchen. So
I don't know, so it was called an emergency shelter.
Don't we have that now, either in the library or the elementary school? Isn't the elementary school?
It could be
shelter. It could be, yeah.
So so it would be understanding, emergency shelter requirements.
Yeah. There is a part of me that says, if we could take this building and use it more efficiently, could kind of mothball library building for a while. And we can't really mothball it. We have to continue to, it has to be in some sort of continuous use in order for our insurance.
If it's,
Some of these were, without renovation, some of the people that said yes.
Right.
if it's temporarily used for storage, is that considered a continuous use?
It's probably continuous use because the old town hall is the same thing.
Okay.
That's insured and that's a continuous use. But, right now, there's no, you wouldn't have to keep the heat on, right?
You could,
Because you have no water.
right, yeah, there's no water.
So any reason, you couldn't turn it off entirely.
There's no reason you could. I mean, there's nothing that's gonna, the
Nothing's gonna
building
freeze.
will freeze, but I mean, we had a camp for years where every fall, I drain it down and it would freeze all winter.
Right.
But you could also keep the temperature very low.
Like a 50 or
Yeah,
45 or
yeah. I
something.
mean, we have another building, small cottage building, I'll call it, that we keep at 50.
Well, would it be an appropriate conclusion or recommendation of this committee to, basically tell the select board? We think that a whole rethinking of the existing town hall needs to happen so that we don't have to think about putting a well on the septic system across the street, and therefore that building can be used for, as is essentially for,
Meetings, it could be used for meetings.
for meetings and a number of other things that won't require major renovations and major expenses. If so, we're done.
I mean,
Okay.
Expand the scope just a tiny bit, maybe, which you guys are so good. I think if, let's say the Council on Aging wanted to have an event, I'd love not to just put a bunch of file cabinets in there and say
Yeah.
that nobody wants to go and look at file cabinets, but
We're
in the old town hall. Let's say that if we were gonna do.
You mean
museum-
in
I mean, I'm
library,
library,
the-
sorry.
the Spear Library.
Yes, right, I'm pointing the wrong direction that way. So that if we could think about a continuous
Mhm.
use where it's more accessible to the public. It just puts off, a long-term decision. But an interim use is that it becomes a meeting space. We're gonna have the library, so that's gonna be, but, there are people that might wanna have. Like, for example, right now, we don't have a lot of boards of committees that are meeting in person. It really would be great if some of them would meet in person, because I think it's a different experience when you're face to face. We have equipment that, so this was everything you see here is all updated equipment, which Gail Huntress got this grant and fully paid for. It's state of the art. It's been fabulous. But we do have our old, still very functional equipment, so that could be put in another space. So, another meeting space. And to say, it wouldn't take anything other than,
Right.
maybe we'd want to do that from Portsmouth CPA money or something,
Right,
the front entryway.
right. Well, I think that's, say, important to the life of the building. And regardless, I think, of how it's ultimately used, I don't think doing that is gonna be different if, say, the police were over there than if the Council on Aging was.
Right. And I would hesitate to designate it for any one group up front.
Right.
Let's use it as you sign up to, for a meeting or you have a special event. And I think, we have to come up with a policy. Is it strictly municipal stuff? Do we open it up? Could somebody rent it, for example? And does that have, all these implications for our insurance policy that we have to check? Let's say there's serious community was doing something where they wanted a space in the center of
Right.
town or, some other non-municipal use. We let people use the town common. They have to get, they have to get insurance and stuff. But it would kind of just solve the immediate problem of a lot of money.
Right.
Potentially, and giving us some more time. We're hiring a new police chief, so we don't, that's gonna
Right.
happen and that's gonna be over the next few months. You said, we're in a budget, that we're not unusual, it's happening all over the Commonwealth, but we're in a real budget crisis. We can only use CPA money, Community Preservation Act money, for like historic
Right.
preservation on that building. You couldn't use it for the bathroom,
Yeah.
for tight tank, for any of that. So. So we could say, okay, let's focus, let's get complete plans of this. You say that, I'll get plans of this town hall and think about a reconfiguration of what the costs would be. And then, dig deeper into what's gonna work for the Council on Aging. Let's just say with the senior lounge, we were gonna use this space. And the select board could, honestly, they could meet up there. No reason why, but yeah. We meet every other week. And then the other thing that's lacking here, okay, go ahead, Stephen.
I was thinking, when we visited over in Spear, I forget who mentioned it, but the original composting toilet apparently was incorrectly installed.
Yeah.
So I was saying, well, is there any reason you can't install a proper composting toilet?
I think that's a great idea.
Because, when you were mentioning other possible use and saying, well, that would be a great space for someone to have their own private little party, but you'd want to have something
Right.
in facility.
Right.
And, with the hand wash.
Oh, yeah. So, right.
If you had a properly functioning composting toilet,
No, it's somebody got a little square dance there.
No, I definitely think it's a great idea. I know just recently we had an issue with the Lake Loyola composting toilet. It was really challenging to find somebody that would actually come out and service it. We went to I think 3 or 4 companies and they're all like, we don't do it anymore. So I think that's something we have to really consider is who would service it and maintain it.
The technology has changed at all.
Yeah.
If there's a, with composting toilets, if there's like ones that have a burn.
I'm sort of an expert on this. I actually used a burning.
Oh, did you? Oh, God, I just said that. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yes, it was called a destroylet.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. What was it like?
It was on occasion distressing because it heated up. I've been using it right after someone had burned something.
Oh,
But
my God, just-
I actually had, for my office one time, a situation where I didn't have running water. I needed facilities. And I did a bunch of research. There are experts. There are people that have,
Yeah.
looked into, I actually know someone personally who knows quite a bit about composting toilets and how they work,
Oh, great.
that might be willing to give us some advice.
Uh-huh.
And what the conclusion that I came to was the simpler the better. If you have anything that's like
Yeah.
create, anything that's mechanical,
Yeah.
then you've got to get somebody out to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. For 3
Right.
months,
Right.
installing, fine, fixing, no.
Right.
And that person can come and go. So I think you would really want to look at the simplest
Good
solution
advice.
possible. I actually ended up using a sawdust toilet, which was really very practical. What I saw over there is very large, very
So you went into the basement.
more than,
Into the, say, the
Frost.
addition
it would be
section.
hard to get. Hard to get it,
Right,
I would think.
through the bulkhead.
Getting anything up through that bulkhead and,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously there was this big tank, yes? Yeah.
Well, and, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but logically, the equipment needs to be sized to fit through doors. I mean, you don't build it into a building to never come out, or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, I don't,
Yeah, I mean, for my purposes, I just wanted a bucket and a box and I just get out occasionally. Now I had lots of space and facilities where I could deal with that. So, but you could get somebody in to say, well, what would be a practical solution for this space? And there are a lot of homesteaders that have figured stuff out. And for the amount that you'd be using it, and I think that was probably part of the issue over there, is that if you only have liquid going into it occasionally, there's nothing really to compost.
Compost.
I mean, urine is sterile. You need bacteria
Right.
to create that kind of situation. And then, I mean, there's books.
And books.
There's books about it. There's someplace, I know, Temenos has a situation where they separate the two. So, in any case, I'm pretty sure you could figure out a solution that would be easier care than what that looked like.
The other idea to put in this mix is whatever plans we come up with, say at town hall. Try to find grants, and grants are targeted for earmarks. That would help fund whatever solutions we want to come up with. There is no town clerk grant stream.
Right.
There's no town hall grant stream. In this case, what they're working for. Right.
Right.
And so, we would try to figure out whatever plans we end up with. Dividing up town hall, and maybe a multi-use, we would hope to find some grants. So,
Devin mentioned. Lease grants, if the space was
That-
appropriate for it, so, there's a possible option there, like, if they would renovate a new space for a police station, not all, maybe they would be able to come up with some funds. I don't know.
The other thing I do like about, being it here is that, well, we have the parking inadequate as it already is. I mean, it needs to be, this parking lot needs to be dealt with.
It's better than it.
It's much better than there. And you, if you're parked there, everybody sees your car too.
right,
Here you can be parked and you might be anywhere. You might be with the town clerk, you might be in with the town administrator. You're not sitting out there on the town common. You know, when I pass by there, I go, oh, is Mary Ann there? You know? But oh, why is Rita's car parked at the police station?
Yeah.
Let's go, what did she do? Oh, she's coming out in cuffs.
Yeah, that's not.
Um,
how
So,
would we do this next step of, I mean, we really can't disband.
no, we can't.
But we
think we
need to
gotta-
have a
Yeah,
planning pool of this.
what if we
I
got?
mean, it's not what's in the survey.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, what if we got, somebody who could draw I don't know that there are any plans for this building. I doubt it. This was built in 1930, this building. 40s. That there's, blueprints good old fashioned blueprints for this building.
I think the assessors have maps for all of our.
There you are.
Old Town Hall, there's all the.
Think for this,
I can talk to Leslie
Somebody can
and just.
just walk and measure. I mean, it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean.
you do, but you want to know sort of, yeah, you just, you want to have a pretty accurate, and you want to know where your supporting walls are. And, you know, right now, we have this kind of convoluted system. I don't even know what all these pipes are, but there are a lot of them. You know, there's some ventilation, air exchange systems. But we'd want the floor plan, we need a HVAC consultation. And we would have to have somebody who could be thoughtful about how you would divide up, say, this space, and even potentially using part of the, if we were gonna use part of the kitchen to see what it's, you know, what the emergency shelter piece of it. I mean, it's nice to have a little kitchen in town hall, but this is not, the council on aging doesn't use, it does cook in there.
Well, taking your lunch and your.
Yeah, Theo is definitely this.
You want like a
kitchen space,
stove and a
the kitchen
refrigerator.
space, the bathroom space, the
Okay.
event space for the potlucks that
Okay.
we have.
So we still need a kitchen,
Yeah, but not that large.
but not, maybe not that large.
That was part of this discussion, was that some of the cupboards that are in there be used for storage, record storage, or excise storage.
Yeah.
So the town buildings committee, you're on, right? I mean, there must be some expertise there that, you know, just getting measurements and a sketch and, you know, figuring out where there's, you know, supporting.
Or find it.
Beams are and so forth. Don't we have the expertise? Ready to?
Well, I have a professional degree in architecture, never practiced it, but I can certainly measure a building.
Yeah.
And Jeff Quackenbush was staff architect at UMass. And I can talk to him, maybe the two of us.
Yeah. Put his name on. They come up with something like that.
No, but you're gonna check and see if there are actually existing plans.
Yeah. Just over at Town Hall in the vault, Leslie, and all it's saying, there was building plan
That would be really helpful.
in there, whether they're physical, I don't know, but I'll talk to her after.
And then I think we need to dive into, like, the town clerk, that office is totally inadequate. You know, like right now, Michael's gonna be making up, they want a Dutch door, because we had to take the table away that was in front of the elevator. And she has no place for anybody to like write, you know, you're filling something out there. So Michael's just gonna, you know, make a thing, but she needs to be in a place like with a counter. So if we can think about how we once we get the plans, how we would reconfigure, then we get. I'd say the police and the town clerk are probably the two departments that have the most space. But we didn't get a response because we haven't get to a town clerk, but that have the most space, immediate space needs.
Well, I think that the collector's point is also shows that, but also records and space to put the records. So her suggestion about making the treasurer an off-site person, because they are off-site a lot, or have some small space, and then and so I think that we need to notice that that was one of the requests for space.
Yes.
And if we, I can go find out what those vaults are.
Walls in the old terminal.
Well, no, in Templeton, they have a record storage vault. And it has the requirement, it meets the requirements. None of the choices here meet all the requirements for fireproof, flood-proof, secure, air quality, lighting, pest safe and accessible.
Right.
And that's what records are supposed to be kept at. And none of the ones that are kept here now. The vault, we did hopefully eliminate all the mice that were in the vault over there, but it's way too small. Can't do
You're
it.
talking about
So this is, so it's a re.
Prepad.
And in
But something, not anything exists.
Right.
Modification.
Right. And it changed out the idea of working on the old town hall. But, you know, if the old town hall was used, there were plenty of things that needed to be dealt with there. If that was going to be the primary record storage.
So Rita, you mentioned, you know, maybe we could kind of reconfigure town hall stuff. I mean, with that a larger collective we versus this committee, I mean,
Well, we could expand the committee if we wanted to. That's certainly within the power of the select board. They organized it, and if we thought it made sense to bring other, you know, a couple of other people on, or we could keep it as is and just you know, consult with Jeff Quackenbush and you over things, you know, if we had to hire, let's say we needed an HVAC person who wasn't willing to do it pro bono. We needed to pay somebody $1,500 or whatever it is, you know, to give us an evaluation. So you could contract out some of the work. We have to think about where the money's coming from, but you know, small, relatively small amounts of money in order to be confident that coming up with a viable plan.
yeah, I guess my question is, you know, it's the who part, you know, and because our charge is mostly that building over there, but
Exactly.
the decision making goes way beyond that, you know, that isolated little building there as we've
Right.
discussed. And so,
Right.
so I guess that, you know, that would be an important next step too, is, you know, does the select board want to expand the jurisdiction or the charge for this committee? And if so, you know, are people still interested in that? And do we need to expand? You know,
Yeah.
personally, I'd be interested in looking at the bigger picture rather than just that.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
but maybe
I
not.
think we have to make like a recommendation about that. I guess the first priority for me is saying, make the recommendation, we're going to not essentially leave the building as is. So maybe some modifications that we need to think about, is this the year? We put in a CPA application for that front porch, you know, because the building committee was gonna do that. It started down that path. But, you know, what else has to be done for that building? We need to find out about the composting toilet. Let's take that first, right? Anything else? I mean,
And recommending it to stay as it is after we fix the toilet and the porch.
yeah,
We would also want to list what kinds of uses
Yes.
we imagine would
Yes.
be acceptable there.
yep.
So make it a list.
So I guess fixes, get a budget. On needs to be done, that building, and then, the identification of uses.
It's that decision. You know, kind of depend on whether it's realistically feasible and would meet the needs of, especially the police and the town clerk and maybe the collector. You know, the reconfiguration of this building. I guess I wouldn't want to say, let's leave that alone. You know,
Oh, if
until I
you didn't
know
figure out.
that it, what needs to be done and meet the needs here first.
Or the opposite could be true. You could say, leave that alone, figure this out, and then figure out, oh, we have to go there. But not spend any
Okay.
more money
So
there.
we do that, do it that way. But in the short term, the only recommendation I would suggest that comes out of this committee for that building is just, if it's kept in use, what's the in use? You know, do we say need to keep the heat on, or is that leave that up to the buildings committee? You know, I did check yesterday just on what the costs are. So with the part-time use of the library, like starting November, December, February. I get a little more updated figure, we don't have it down, but for propane, like in November of '24, it was filled, it was $346. So that was November, middle of November, November 14th. December 28th, it was $445. And on February 12th, it was $586. That's with the library being open part-time.
Right.
It's, Mary Ann told me she set the heat at
I think she says that it's
60,
60 when she's
yeah,
not.
60 or 62. So, but it's pretty expensive, for a part-time use. So if we could say, it could be left at 40 or whatever, it's only gonna be, you're only gonna turn on the heat like an hour before, let's say you have a meeting. We could bring down those carrying costs, because for me, that's important. Shouldn't be, this is it's a lot of money. Joan Hanson was inputting all the utility costs, and I was looking, I was going. They're pretty high.
That's not the only heating cost.
No, No, and the mini splits, so then she didn't have all the electric up yet, so I was getting the electric. I just had like from April and May, April was 130, May was 90, but I didn't get it for, and I will get those figures for summer when you had the AC on.
There'd be money to do some installation.
Well, I didn't get to mass
Are we
the
on
other
the other?
thing.
Because but just from looking in the basement, it's pretty clear that that floor, is not very well, the other window is open all the time. Which seems not smart. And then there's need for more insulation above, right?
Right.
That's the
Well, I think the thing that would probably be most benefit is that rotted base window. It's so rotted that the panes of glass drop down an inch or two. So that's wide open. Air coming. I think re-insulating basement, because there's been a lot of mice infestation in it, and a lot of it's fallen out. That's probably gonna, you could do it yourself, that's gonna be an expense. The attic space would be probably the easiest, because it's below more cellulose.
Well, I had intended, and I just didn't get to it, to call Mass Save to see whether or not they had any municipal buildings, but I can ask either Brennan or Haley to check with Joe Comerford's office just to see if there's anything else out there. I know Municipal Empowerment Act, Susie was mentioning earlier, I think included provision, to help cities and towns with public buildings, but maybe there's some energy money to tap into, just to see.
What's for seat only, it's the one back.
Oh, gee.
Already we had, oh, we had thousands and thousands.
And we got it at the library,
Mass Save.
yeah.
Was that Mass Save?
No.
No,
Yeah,
it
there was
was just
something-
straight old.
We got all new lighting at the elementary school for so. that was- Lighting isn't the issue there, it's in
Right.
insulation. So maybe, does it make sense like to organize in? I understand yet like doing, it's all part of one big picture, but there's some real short-term, immediate needs for here, that regardless of how the building's gonna be used, right? That we should pay attention to some window. And if we could find some money to the front porch, and if we could find some money at the installation, right? Because regardless of who or how it gets used, right? Having better insulated. So
We have meetings over there. Do you feel we should have a bathroom? So we'd have to put the composting toilet on this list. Cellar window, porch, insulation, and the toilet.
I think if we could get a cost, the complexity, we could do a cost benefit analysis. What does it cost for so, Mary Ann runs across the street here now, right? It's not, it's, you know, it's not,
Meetings at night.
Especially
asking-
at
no, I know.
I know what it's like, though.
But how many meetings have you been to where people have got up and gone to the bathroom?
All people.
Right.
On the committee. I
I've
made
never
the
used-
bathroom.
I've never used that.
In fact, on the Zoom, you watch people leave for the bathroom. and go
Yeah.
back.
you can be one of the-
Yeah. So let's check on that. We can say, one of the criteria for using the building is.
The bathroom.
Right.
We'll have a porta potty outside.
Well, so the toilet's a question,
Yeah,
but the cellar window and the
Yeah.
porch are on.
yes.
You can't
What is the timing for the CPA grants? Is that?
So it's, no, we still aren't open. It's just opening. We're doing expressions of interest right now until. I don't know, the next few weeks and then, but we could take, the CPC could. You don't have to submit an expression of interest, and applications are due sometime in January, I think. I should know this better, but
But we should look ahead to that.
right, so use that as a. Did you guys did quite a bit of work for the front porch already, didn't you? You had an application together.
Well, I can look at my notes, but I think it was, we discussed it to the point of I pursued finding that the building qualified.
Yeah.
Building.
Yeah.
We could go for a grant, but then a committee decided because library was gonna be moving and wants to be using not pursue doing anything. So as far as that went.
It has to follow the National Park Service guidelines for historic structures. I think it's National Park. It's a funny, what is it called? There's some guidelines that we just have to make sure in doing a design that it meets those.
Well, what I
For
remember,
CPA,
because it's not on the historic registry. Requirements are a little looser.
Yeah.
So for instance, you wouldn't have to use, let's say, pine stair trees. Yeah, because when we were over there, I was saying. Floor, finished flooring. Best thing to use would be composite material. For the porch.
right,
But everything else we could kind of. Duplicate. But you know, if you do porch steps that are painted. Now you got a maintenance. And if it's, my experience as a home inspector is, unless you use naturally durable wood for the steps. Not gonna last.
even,
Yeah, there you go.
okay,
And the historical photographs, I mentioned this, the historical photograph of the building. When it was completed, there's no handrail,
right,
but a handrail is required. And
Yes.
there is a photograph that I found. I don't know if it's from the 80s, there was a metal handrail. Coming down the steps. So,
so I don't want to.
there's no historic precedent for a certain type of handrail as far as the buildings are concerned. Anyway, that's something in the design.
I don't want to lay all of this on you because it's sounding like. So I can check, I'll do the mass save, and I'm gonna go get the rest of the utility numbers, because I think it's just useful for everybody to understand. And if you can talk to Jeff Quackenbush then about doing
Measured drawings.
measured drawings.
If we need,
And we'll look for
yeah,
Yes, let's go look.
Where is-
Get the existing drawings. Getting estimates on the basement window. Re-insulating the basement, bone-in cellulose and a composting toilet. Maybe Mary Jo, would you be willing to kind of do some, like, talk to your friend about the composting toilet and what our options are? Sure. Everybody thinks of composting toilet. I mean, that's gonna probably be our cheapest, least expensive. Right?
Especially if we're looking at something that's not every day, a whole
Yeah.
office, a whole department working there. That's.
Yeah.
That's assuming that the existing structure can stay where it is right now. If we have to drop it down to the floor level, that will be a big job.
What floor?
To drop which,
Right now, it's raised up. You walk down in there, there's
Right.
like a half wall, and it sits on that half wall.
Right.
And I think that was part of the problem with it, that it really needed to be lower,
Yeah,
right? Isn't that
Yeah.
even?
Well, that's what Brendan, I think, was
Yeah.
presenting that info. I did not know that.
It's not like a, it's.
It looked, I thought it was on a 2x2 or 4x4, not 2x2, 2x4, some sort of wooden framework that was built to support it up tight to the floor. That's my memory.
And I thought, I remember a half concrete wall.
I think it's concrete,
It's on a concrete wall.
like a slab.
Okay. Well, sounds like everybody else.
So anyway.
and I think that was part of that was part of the problem.
Well,
that
that's
it
what
didn't-
we were told, that the problem wasn't working well, was that it's too high, it's too close to the
Oh, to
input
the-
area, it had to be down lower. For some reason, I don't know.
I could get Ben to come look at it,
Okay,
if I knew how to get him in there.
yeah,
Talk to Mary Ann and she can.
Okay.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Great. And then, but, so at our next, if we need to. Do you think, does that? It's too late.
Yeah, I'll be waiting.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we'll soon be in it.
Are you around at all that week, Paul, or are you gone? the whole week?
We're leaving the night
Oh, okay.
and back, but that's what's.
But if you think you might be able to sit in.
What would you
So
say?
do we really have a date or? The 13th is it's Thursday.
Be that, well. We have to move the 13th and then 2 weeks from then. So we got.
Right. Would it make sense to me, like on early the following week? Like this, oh, you're not back till the 20th.
Yeah, I should just meet without it.
Yeah, okay,
I'm on the road on the 13th.
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, okay. Does that give you enough time, Stephen and Jeff, do you think? Assuming if we have hands to do some measuring.
I think certainly measure it. If Jeff might, I don't have,
Does he have CAD stuff or?
I don't know. I don't have any of that.
My husband does. I don't want to commit him to, I mean, if Jeff, I assume Jeff does too. So why don't you check with Jeff?
Yeah.
And then, Jeff is a Habitat volunteer, so he sees my husband all the time. So they can.
Well, the other thing is that if there are drawn plans, that precedes all of this. So
Right,
that-
yeah.
But it's much easier to work with a little drawing where you can, you're not working with a big blueprint. Yeah, it's to have something, something that's on the computer to move walls around and.
Let's leave things up there's plans for the accessibility project and perhaps some for the 1945, 1950 planning.
Okay, great. Great, that would be a big help.
I'll coordinate it very good.
Okay, and you'll let me know.
Yeah.
Stephen, the
the basement wall, the window, the glassy drop down. Were you talking about the need to actually replace that or repair it? Because I would repair it if that's.
Have to look at it. I think my hunch is that sill of the window is all rotted out. And,
I mean,
and-
I'm looking for something to do.
Well,
You don't know. I'd be happy to do that. I mean, that's the kind of work I do
Yeah,
anyway. so
okay, yeah,
It's doable for, me rather than replacing. the-
well, you can take a look at it, see.
Okay.
I mean, the other question is a window actually heated? You know,
A board.
Well-
Basement space fees, right? Something we haven't addressed yet either. but
well,
I was.
and you remember the basement, the quote basement is a small portion, most of it's crawl space.
But for reconciliation might be, I don't know. It's just
Well,
something that we haven't really.
You know, it has a dirt floor. There'd be concerns about controlling moisture. I mean, I don't
Is there a
think
dehumidifier down there?
there is, but I don't know when. It wasn't running when
Oh, okay.
we were there. You know, and the dehumidifier, I mean, you can get a dehumidifier with a pump.
Yeah.
But the problem is, couldn't really have a dehumidifier in there. Unless the building's heated.
Right, right. Then we go.
Yeah, so.
Okay. All right, so what I told the select board was that I might be prepared to give very brief update at our next meeting, because Kaylee had asked me. And I think that'd probably be appropriate. It's just to talk about kind of what we're thinking about, the actions that we're taking, because everybody's gonna start seeing you all down there. What's going on with that library committee? So we can do that, but I think we have a plan, so we'd have the drawings, and then once we have those, let's say the next meeting, we had some more information about Mass Save. I have the utility information, which may or may not be. I think, it's good information, but I'm not sure I'm making decisions based on that. You've had a chance to take a look at the window.
The application for the.
CPA application.
I'll look into that.
Look into that toilet. And the insulation stuff, it's bat insulation. It's fiberglass bats in the
Crawl space.
crawl space. Yeah.
And the better thing to do probably would be to put up something rigid and do spec cellulose. Because otherwise, if you put new fiberglass,
Just gonna,
mice are gonna.
yes, they just messed
Yes,
with
hit
it.
it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll have the same issue.
I wonder if the whole insulation is a back or farther back burner thing, because the kind of use we're planning is so much more minimal. It's true that all those things would help, and if we could
Yeah.
get a Mass Save grant to do it, that'd
Yeah.
be great, but that doesn't seem to me to preclude moving forward in the directions we think we're going.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the window, definitely.
Window, the stairs, the toilet.
Say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'll
we'll
get
do it.
that. So I'll
But
ask
I
about
wouldn't
that.
spend a lot of time
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Rita.
Yes, here you go.
Yes. I have an appointment at noon, and if you're interested in public comment, I would appreciate like a 2-minute opportunity.
Okay, so
Oh.
I just want to check with the committee members. How do you feel about taking a public comment at this point?
We might be doing all of that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have to leave at noon also,
Um,
so we need to wrap up
Yeah.
our part
So
but
we have
Yes.
4 minutes, Susie. We have 4 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Susie has to leave. We have to finish our meeting. But Mary Lou, I would say if you have comments based on everything you've heard, why don't you send us something in writing, and I think we'll defer to our next meeting. kind of before
Okay.
We had a lot, I think we got a lot done today. So,
Do you
and
have
we
a-
did have it on to talk about on the agenda, but we have to wrap this up.
Okay,
Um,
do you have an email? I couldn't. get it.
You could, we don't, we're not a permanent committee, but you could send it to Rita Farrell at Shutesbury.org, or
Okay.
actually send it to, Brennan, that he can distribute it.
Okay.
Brennan, town.
It's
Admin,
assist@shutesbury.org.
yeah,
I'm
admin
sorry?
assist at Shutesbury.org.
I couldn't make that out.
Admin, ADMIN,
Yes,
ASST,
ASST. Very good.
IST, assist. Oh, I'm sorry. ASS.
town website.
I got it. Thank you. Good
Okay,
day.
you're welcome.
Good day.
Bye-bye. Okay, and so let's see. So I think everybody has it assigned. That's great.
I think one of the things I will work through is make a list of people who we've talked about using it as a committee. Will
Yeah.
have a different use in mind. And maybe I will start looking at some of the town clerk motions. What parts are in that plan and what maybe some of the costs would be associated to that. That's down the road, but I can do that work.
Okay, great. So I think we have is there anything else for the agenda? It sounds like we have enough when we come back.
We do, but I won't be here, so.
Won't be here,
I
right.
could just have like 1 minute. just to
Absolutely.
give
Go ahead,
you
yeah.
know, a few of my thoughts about public input.
Yes.
I think it's really important. I've done those. One of the strongest advocate for public input in the public decision making as we define. But I think the way it's done is crucial. I think it should not be during our meetings. I thought about, I know there was talk online about, people getting a copy of that survey and submitting it. The survey is not appropriate for general public type comments. If we want to do that, it would have to be a different survey, but personally, I think, to do that, we have to kind of lay out some of our preliminary thoughts about what is feasible, what is not, what is worthy of commenting on, what is not. And rather than do that, I think, more of a public workshop kind of thing, it would be a better way to do it, because then we get an opportunity to do a presentation beforehand.
Okay.
And then I think it's also important to be able to differentiate between what we're trying to do is determine what the needs are of the town versus what, the public would like to see, or what the desires are, needs versus desires. Very important distinction. I think.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and the last thing I'll say, I mean, I've been on a lot of committees over the years, and it's nice to be able to have general public, kind of chime in. It can get out of hand so quickly, and that, I think, what frustrates me, and I know about other people, about serving on town committees, that, the meetings get so long and so forth. So if we're gonna have a public input component, to our meetings, and, like the select board does,
Yeah.
5 minutes in the beginning, or something structured like that, is the only way I would, be willing to continue participating.
On the library building committee, we allow, I forget if it was 5, 10 minutes at the beginning of meeting for public comment. That was it. And,
Where does this go? Our comments, our survey, we don't have an entity, right? It would only be attached on my town government to our minutes. Having this be accessible to the public, the public survey, the public comments,
Results.
might be appropriate. I mean, it's public. It was part of our meeting, but who are we? Where do we see us on the?
Yeah, when we have it, right, so
ad hoc.
ad hoc committees, so let's take like the stormwater, I was gonna say wastewater, the stormwater. How do they show up on the website?
We have data on the town website.
Okay, well, we,
Page on the town website and on my town government, it's attached to the meeting for minutes.
Correct.
all the
And are those
materials.
documents attached to those, my town government meetings? Are
I
they?
don't know if I don't think the documents have, but. I mean, we could always upload them to our page on the website.
We can do all the individual survey forms with the compilation, the summary,
And the
because that's what we're using in this.
Yeah, so I think that that's another way to start engaging the public. You know,
Mhm.
there's a lot more
Correct.
questions, but those questions can come to the workshop. Where we sit down and sort that out a little later. It's not right now. But they're not having access to the information unless we put it somewhere.
No, I'm just thinking of previous experiences, maybe we should have in our survey said, as always, any comments you provide could be made public.
Right,
And not having said that, I say, oh boy, we don't have any comments that people don't want to have out there. And they would have responded differently if they had known that it would be public, but hey.
They are.
They are public.
Yeah.
Everyone should know that by now, I
Yeah.
guess.
and this is why we're on, I don't see anything here particularly offensive, right?
Yeah. I think.
So, okay, getting back to, I appreciate your comments about public engagement, and I agree. You know, I didn't have public comment, for this meeting, because I see this as it's like we're working, yeah, this is a real working group. We have a lot of research to do. But, having some sort of engagement, and I think, reporting back, you can do that in a meeting that's exclusively set up to, give our thoughts. We can show pictures of our floor plans, that sort of thing. So we'll plan that at some point into the future. Okay, anything else? Everybody have their assignments?
Yes, I'll update with the historical and the,
Yes.
on aging, and we're done with that.
Yes, yeah.
The rest just goes.
You just, that would be great, and that.
Survey and comments.
So, so the documents we've worked on today were the record storage, the survey compilation, and the comments. Narrative comments. And I just want to make one other kind of statement for anybody who's not here, who's might be listening to this meeting. There was some discussion, excuse me, at the historical commission, that this was a very, I can't remember, I wrote down the words, but I here, that this was a, oh yeah, I do. That this was a private process. This was not a public process, which I was a little alarmed about. And it was not, nobody, a corrected person there. That was too small a committee, that it was not representative. But, I wasn't there to speak up to say, we did a public announcement about this. We solicited people to come in. All these meetings that are posted, they're all public. Nobody's hiding behind closed doors. And this is not the old guard, which is sad. Making decisions behind closed doors. Our doors are open, they're open to the public.
And we aren't making decisions, we're making recommendations. We're not the
Exactly, we are
deciders.
not the deciders, right, exactly, we're making recommendations. And also that, it's also stated that, that there was a predetermined outcome. Which there was, that's why we had this committee. So I just say that for anybody listening in. At the historical commission meeting, which happened,
members or?
or members of the historical commission. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Some discussion on next door as well, then.
Yeah.
Right.
Very flattering.
Yeah.
The other piece that I want to say about what the record storage committee did is it just listed all the pros and cons. We didn't make the decision. Of course, nothing happened as a result. But in the end, I think that is a good way to present. It sort of meets the public need to understand where the weights are in the discussion. And so you don't have to make the decision. You just have to say, this will work, this won't work, blah, blah, blah.
right, right. And it's really how, sort of how the recommendation will be made to the select board, but ultimately, because there'll be financial implications, so, you know, the town gets to weigh in. So there might be some things that the select board said, yes, we'll just go ahead and move forward on with the Emmons Spear building, because we need to do that to protect the building. And come up with some use guidelines and that sort of thing. But anything that beyond even, well, the CPA, anything that's a significant monetary cost, we will town meeting. That's gonna go to town meeting. So, okay, great. So we will meet again on the 13th if you can participate.
Yeah, campground.
It's warm.
You can look at us. You can watch TV afterwards.
That's right, that's right. Oh, good for you. Yeah.
You need a motion.
Yes, I do need, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I need that we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Down the side.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good group.
Yes.
Been around the block.
Yeah, you're part of the old guard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're sitting against this little part.
So much garden.
Okay.